We start. Hello, welcome to another video of my experiences with the coronavirus epidemic. Today I'll be talking about practical and a little bit of spiritual approach to this epidemic. The whole scene of this battlefield seems incredible and horrific, and this can be attributed only to the fury of Mother Nature. The universe is expressing itself in the most gross and most subtle forms here. Every act of this universe is a mystery and a miracle. The power of thought is as powerful as the disease that we are seeing. And because we've seen the effect of the fear and the emotions that this has raised. It's spectacular to see the entire world coming together as one in the name of this coronavirus. However, we need to pause for a moment and understand the true face of this epidemic, purely with the intellect. Uh, Having an open approach to a novel problem is essential because we as ICU doctors saw that our presumption of respiratory failure as ARDS that usually affects the lung compliance and response to PEEP is being questioned right now as a common phenomenon. It seems like it varies from person to person, and this may be influencing our decisions and outcomes for therapies. So our open-minded search for this mechanism is definitely unfolding every day as we speak. Similarly, any event on Mother Earth has actually two sides to it, good and bad, or it's more a spectrum. And we are starting to understand whether we need to interpret this epidemic in a different way and try to see if we can tap the whole potential of this epidemic and whole potential of our human body and life by trying to see if we can balance the interpretation of this virus and how humans are interacting with this virus. For this interpretation, we are actually grateful for the wisdom from our ancestors across thousands of years on Mother Earth because they've already seen such epidemics in the past. So we have to learn from them. The universe and the earth are gross manifestations of our inner microcosmos established in each human being. We are actually a continuum with the universe. And the core of a human being is actually called as the unified field that ultimately gives birth to all five natural forms of energy, which is air, water, fire, earth, and space. Events in the outer world actually represent the ups and downs in the gut of a human being or even the nucleus of each cell in our body. Our gut or the core is very sensitive to all forms of interaction with the environment and outside of it. We know that modern medicine defines disease as a complex interaction of disease-causing agent, host, and environment. Since about 95% of the people here with coronavirus who test positive for the virus are actually recovering from symptoms, it does indicate that maybe there's something inherent already in our innate human environment that actually creates a reasonable relationship with the virus. For instance, researchers are actually trying to use plasma from survivors to see if this can actually prevent deaths in other patients who are potentially missing this ingredient, right? And now we know that the home of our immunity is actually in the gut and microbiome that is flourishing in it. Hence, the lesson of this virus epidemic from Mother Earth may actually be to urge the entire humanity to understand how we can actually fix or change our innate immunity, our gut microbiome, and natural defense for this 5 to 10% of the population that's actually suffering from the disease. And also probably for the future generations, we have a goal here to try to figure this out. So this is actually the goal of the epidemic from the medical aspect. And this is the duty of each one of us in the public, while physicians are continuing to try to save these 5 to 10% of the population right now. So for this, as we as physician researcher also, just like looking at the plasma, now I actually came up with a reasonable suspicion for the gut immunity being a potential cause as well as an area of that we can tap. So you may have heard about fecal transplant or stool transplants that are being done for C. diff patients, and I have been wondering whether is there a connection is there potential for fecal stool transplant as a potential target therapy for severely ill COVID patients, and that remains to be seen. So for the general public, right now I'm going to talk about what are the things that we can take out from this epidemic that we can apply to the general public that are right now at their homes and wondering what to do and what to learn from this epidemic. This paragraph below will be very helpful. So for the general public, which is the survivors and the mild COVID patients, again, let's go back into the wisdom of our scriptures, including things like the Ayurveda, the Gita, the Vedas from India, and even other scriptures like Chinese, European, and Egyptian medicine scriptures. So health actually comes from striking a balance in the natural forces that drive our desires, which is called vasanas, and duties or dharma. This epidemic is actually an outstanding example given by Mother Nature for all humans to check this concept of health for ourselves in our own lives in real time. Each of us is stuck inside our homes right now at various levels, depending on the duties towards yourself, which is either your age, you're old and you're not able to get out, you're trying to protect yourself from the virus. Either you're sick with the virus, immunocompromised, self-protective nature of yourself, or you have duties towards the society where there are people who want to avoid spreading the virus, so they're staying home, healthcare workers who are trying to get out there. And also you have certain desires to help the public, such as Uber drivers in restaurants that are still trying to run and deliver food. So there are different levels of you know outcomes from this lockdown that we're seeing. So every moment during this epidemic, we go through this constant analysis of what is my role today since I'm here in New York City. As a physician in the ICU at North Central Bronx, I executed my duties of taking care of sickest patients starting from March 23 onwards. I also went through a roller coaster of emotions during the initial phase because of the severity of the disease, the rapidity and uncertainty of the disease and the therapy. But thanks to excellent teamwork and guidance from my hospital all the way through the across the state to the government and various administrative authorities, we are going strong every day, trying to learn the disease and making the experience, much more efficient. So, and we are trying to make our critically ill patients survive through this as much as possible. So during this busy week, I kept frequent checks on the balance between something called I tried my best, keeping frequent checks on the balance between duties as a physician, as a team member, as at home, as a human being, and in my own society. Trying to balance that with the desires I have for my own selves. Fulfilling the duties towards my own health alongside the duties towards patients and the nation made my experience much more enlightening. So on my day off, after the busy week, I had constant desires to keep track of some patients. I wanted to publish certain things to see if that may be helpful for the society. And even this video right now that I'm recording is part of some of my desire to see if I can, share these things with the public. And that's where I'm trying my best to balance the duties versus the desires. So that's when the Gita and the Mahabharata war actually came to my rescue. So being present right now, right here, and executing the duties at the present moment bestows peace and health in the individual and the family. And this is something that the public, each one of you, needs to take into account every single day during your lives and keep a constant check on this concept. Every 20 minutes or 30 minutes when you do your job at workplace or during your different aspects of daily life, try to see if you can balance this. Can I balance this with my desire and duty? So this form of journaling that I'm right now doing actually is helping me a lot in my own personal growth towards being an ideal human, or we call it sthita prajna in Gita. And I'm actually having a very mind-stirring experience trying to balance the desires to help areas of need in my hospital, desire versus duty to study these patients, publish, and spread the knowledge. This exercise is a constant feature in our daily lives, and it's exemplified already in the scriptures, the world wars, previous epidemics, right? And trying to intellectualize my respect towards duties towards my health and my home. So this balance between, we call this in America as work-life balance, right? You can call this as balance between duty and desire, or you can call it as work-life balance. And this is actually the key to health and immunity. People keep asking me, oh, what supplements do I take to be healthy? I wish it was just supplements. I wish it was just diet. I wish it was just exercise. No, it is actually a combination of a package of multiple different things. And the most important thing is actually a balance to the duties towards yourself versus desires that come from different stimulus that you may have. And what you eat, what you see, what you do is actually a very important factor that determines and drives all of your desires. You are what you eat. So for example, sattvic food is one of those examples. The type of food that you eat actually drives the kinds of thoughts that you have, right? So so once each one of us in our own homes understands and contextualizes this epidemic in their own social and professional life, then the purpose of this epidemic will actually be fulfilled. Until then, until the message is received, Mother Nature will keep knocking on our doors from within and outside. Simultaneously with our research to, for this fix for this deficiency of this immunity, people like me, we are trying to actually do Ayurvedic research side by side, trying to understand the prakriti or nature of people who have survived this, and trying to see if, and I think this will give a long-lasting understanding of this epidemic in the future, and also of all chronic diseases that predispose to death from coronavirus. Because we know from Italy and China that people who have comorbid diseases already, things like hypertension, diabetes, those are the people who are suffering the most. So on that line, so for example, according to CDC, before this epidemic started, 433 people die every day from lung cancer, okay, as against 1,000 or so right now from this epidemic. Whereas 2,000 people every minute die from heart disease in the USA. And so this pandemic is trying to unfold to us the situation of our gut healthy and the society healthy actions of man, so that we actually can reduce the suffering of fellow human beings with chronic diseases and prevent future pandemic deaths, right? Ayurvedic Prakriti questionnaire research will actually tell us whether even maybe younger humans without known comorbidities who died during this coronavirus epidemic, do they have something in much earlier stages of the 6 stages of disease that predisposed them to death? Okay, so why don't I stop right here, and I will let you um, recollect these thoughts, interpret these in your own ways, and try to see if we can, catch you in another video later. And next video, I'll be talking about more about Ayurveda and how to improve your gut immunity. And I will be talking about desire versus duty balance, and try to give you examples from each of your lives, irrespective of what kind of occupation you are in, be it the IT industry, the consultancy, lots of travel, or being a physician. We all have different forms of stress, and it ultimately depends on how we handle stress that is going to help us nurture our health. Thank you very much.